Central London. Tucked behind King's Cross Station is Argyle School, a large primary with nearly 500 pupils and 26 teachers. It has a large ethnic minority intake, and the pressures of living in London mean there's a high turnover of staff. Running such a school requires skillful management, and to help her, the head, Laura Wynne, has delegated middle leadership powers to 12 classroom teachers. Many of the volunteers for the posts are relatively inexperienced, but the head still demands a lot.
I think it's important for people who step up to be a middle leader to understand there is some graft involved. They may be good classroom leaders, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at leading people and dealing perhaps with the more tricky issues of what do you do if somebody doesn't change their curriculum plan as you've suggested, what happens if the standards are dropping in a year group, how do you go in and support those people, especially when you're working alongside them day in, day out.
Visiting the school is Professor Jeff Southworth from the National College of School Leadership. He's looking at the bigger picture and wants middle leaders to take an imaginative approach.
In the past, a lot of the coordinators were responsible really for looking after things, whereas subject leaders, we want to be influencing people. So it's about leadership, which is about taking people with you, going on a journey together, usually improving the quality of work in the school. I think that's where the major difference is, rather than looking after the stock cupboard.
In this programme, we'll see 3 young middle leaders in action.
Johar, could you show me? Thank you, Bilkis.
Zinath Begum, a Year 4 classroom teacher, took on the RE and science middle leadership roles after only 2 years at the school, and initially found it a difficult balancing act.
I think it comes down to time. I go home at night thinking about my class. I don't always go home at night thinking about science. And I think it's because you're always, you know, your priority is with the children that you're with. You spend most time with them. When you can, I think we try and fit in the subject leadership.
This morning, she's been given time out to squeeze in a science planning meeting with Year 6 teachers Sam and Simone.
OK. It's called the Digital Blue, and it's basically a really good microscope. OK, you can take it out, you can put it in, and the magnification can go really, really high. Good. OK, and it goes all the way to 200. You're doing magnetism, so I thought iron filings, just trying to make it really visual, yeah? And I think it would be ideal to use that at the beginning of the unit, just, you know, as a really nice starter. And when it's up on the interactive whiteboard, yeah, could have used that. When it's up on the interactive whiteboard, Julie's used it before, and she said, you know, the kind of having that magnification on such a big scale. And they looked at children's fingernails and stuff, and it was sort of like, just for the wow factor, for them to remember it, I think. Definitely use that.
See, because you're saying at the beginning of the unit, but we've put in electricity in week 1.
OK. But it doesn't have to be, does it? Is there a reason that you've put that
it doesn't have to be. I can't remember why.
Use it at the beginning of magnetism, when you introduce magnetism.
Yeah.
I think the first year when I became an RE coordinator, I found it quite daunting, sort of advising teachers that were maybe older than me or more experienced than me, and also teachers that had led RE before as well. I found that quite daunting, but I sort of discovered that it's all in the way that you do it, and sort of your enthusiasm, diplomacy, and I mean, I've found in my experience here that generally people are really eager to hear sort of new, fresh ideas.
It can create some tensions, of that there's no doubt, particularly where colleagues think expertise is only related to how many years of experience you've got in the job. Actually, that's not necessarily true. Younger teachers often bring more recent, relevant experience than perhaps some teachers who've been in the school for a few years, because the head's job is really to think of the teaching staff as a combined force and look at their combined teaching talents and maximise that use of talent in the school.
This one?
Alice Bradbury is a good example. She's the middle leader for modern foreign languages and history.
I think you have to take on a subject that you really believe in. It's no good trying to coordinate a subject that you don't feel particularly enthusiastic about, because what you're really bringing is the ideas and the innovation and trying to bring the excitement to a subject. You've got to be enthusiastic in order to make the whole school enthusiastic.
That's hopefully what Alice will
Today, she's leading a Year 5 planning meeting on the Tudors. It's particularly challenging because all the teachers are senior to her, and one is the assistant head.
This is how Tudor children used to read. Used to stand up and used to have this as their thing to read out to the class. So it tells us a little bit about how, what was important to the Tudors at school. I mean, I know you don't do it as a whole topic, but it's a kind of a way in for the children to appreciate how Tudor children went to school, and of course how important religion is, which is going to link into your stuff all about Henry VIII.
Are there any internet resources that you know of? That
Yes, I have brought some websites for you to look at. Before I do that, though, one other thing I was going to say is it's quite, some of the sort of ideas are a bit elusive about who...
Despite Alice's inexperience, the meeting seems to be going well.
It'd be really good to sort of build up, maybe to do some small hot seating for a couple of weeks and then have a big session where almost do it like a TV programme or Trisha or something like that, where you have all of Henry's wives and people ask them questions, and get them to sort of argue with each other and say, you did this, though, and try and make it really sort of come alive of the personalities, because a lot of it's about personality, and that's not very easy for our children to understand necessarily, unless they sort of see it. But and also trying to make it exciting, because it is quite a soap opera, and we got to,
Well, that's going to help them to be able to produce a family tree, isn't it?
Yes, so they know exactly who everyone is. Give them name badges, get them to sit at the front, say, you Anne of Cleves, but
Okay.
I think sometimes, when you're talking to really sort of outstanding, experienced teachers, you can feel, slightly awkward. But I think I just have to sort of decide that it's okay and that they're really interested in what I have to say, so it's fine. The only tension really is about timing, I would say.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that just I would like to have a lot more time. I feel like I've got so many things I'd like to do with history and with MFL, but I don't really have time to do everything that I would like to.
Time is one of the biggest problems, and it's one of the most precious commodities staff in schools have. I think time management becomes therefore an important skill, and the heads have to play a part in providing middle leaders with some time, particularly to go and work in classrooms alongside colleagues. But we know from schools like Argyll and others that it can be done.
We've tried a couple of different ways of addressing that issue. We buy in supply cover for staff when they're working on curriculum development. And when people say, look, I need a little bit of extra time to finish this, or can I have a day out to do that, we're actually able to flex and bend and allow for that. It does create extra workload, of course it does, but it also creates extra learning, because you learn to manage yourself in different ways, and you learn to decide what's a priority.
Shortage of time and tight budgets has forced the school to prioritise certain subject areas at any one time, and only priority middle leadership roles are paid.
I don't think that I'd sort of do it more if I was paid, but because there just isn't any more time anyway. But I think it can feel a little awkward, maybe.
So what's your motivation for taking on the middle leadership roles?
Well, mainly it's my own development, is that as a fast-track teacher, I'm supposed to take on extra responsibility anyway. So for me, I wanted to take it on, even though it was my NQT year last year. I just wanted to take on a coordinating role so that I'd get experience of coordinating a subject, and I've learned a lot about how to coordinate a subject already quite early on in my career.
Reward is more than pay. Actually, time is a kind of reward in a school. If you give people time to do something, then that gives it status in a primary school too. The other thing is ensuring that there's a sense of satisfaction from the work. How rewarding is the role and the work itself? It's important to give people that, because that's actually the psychological contract. That's the real payback.
One of the questions I said to people, asked people to comment on, was would they prefer time out to look at their subject and develop their subject and write policies and develop curriculum plans and work with other members of staff, or would they receive financial reward, i.e. make up, take take a little bit of extra salary and do all the work in your own time. And it was a direct half and half split. So we try and do both.
Zinath has been called in by the deputy head, Helen Adams, to discuss her action plan for science and investigate a slight dip in the Key Stage 2 results.
We've done really, really well with our SEN and lower retaining children, really well. Now, children at 2B, you would really expect all children who got 2B on an average trajectory to get a 4. So 85, that should be ideally 100, and it's 85. So you're seeing that, you know, you're wondering why what happened to those children. So the only real issue there, apart from the good things, the only real question is why did some of those 2Bs, and it's only a couple of children you're talking about, but why did they not make the...
And it could well be, if we looked into it, whether or not there was something significant that happened within that year to affect their attainment.
Yeah, and we've talked as well about, is it the same kind of questions? You know, is it those questions which need those higher order thinking skills, the evaluation and the kind of inference, and is it the language demands for our children of explaining and justifying their answers? So what is it? What are the barriers?
And also, I wanted to meet with Bernie and Jemima as well at some point, and when I've identified which children it was, like actually getting their views on as to the why they didn't achieve that level. I'm sure they'll have some sort of insight.
Absolutely. And I think maybe in terms of your action planning, I know that you've put that in your action plan, and whether or not that needs to be here in terms of where it says what are our key priorities for development.
As a science coordinator, the hope is that you've sort of supported every teacher in the school in teaching science at a high level for every child in the school, and it's really sort of, that's what I go away and think, you know, have I impacted on the child in every year group?
For the past 2 years, the school has prioritised fitness and healthy eating. Heading this up with an extensive programme of activities is middle leader Sam Kiston-Sammy.
There's a lot of planning involved, but and I tend to do my planning after school, obviously, but at the same time I have a lot of colleagues that assist me with this. It's been slightly daunting, but not as bad as I thought it would be.
We want to be healthy in our minds, healthy in our bodies, healthy inside. Because to be healthy, once we're healthy, we're even better at being learners. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
This week it's the Skipathon, and Sam's pulled off the ultimate middle leader coup, persuading the head to lead the fitness drive from the front.
It's not just the children who are healthy at Argyle. Who else do we need to be healthy? All the grown-ups. My target is 5. Move back. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
What needs to happen is to create a culture in which everybody can learn from everybody else. And heads can do that through the idea of distributed leadership, of developing leadership at all levels. We know that works in all kinds of organisations, be they schools, hospitals, commercial companies, whatever. The need to develop leadership at all levels to make sure it isn't just down to the head alone, but that everybody has a role and a part to play is really important.